Good morning, everybody. You're watching our mid-morning edition of Arirang News on this Thursday, June 18th, live from Seoul. I'm Min. And before we begin, here are the stories we're following at this hour. South Korea's top nuclear envoy is in Washington, D.C. on an unannounced trip. It comes as relations between the two Koreas this week take a dramatic turn for the worse. The Trump administration extends already existing sanctions on North Korea by another year. The White House cites the continued unusual and extraordinary threats posed by the regime. Plus, the World Health Organization urges caution on a new coronavirus drug that's being touted as a breakthrough. The WHO says it should only be used by medical staff where the patient's life hangs in the balance. Our top story this morning, as border tensions flare up between the two Koreas, the South Korean Foreign Ministry's Special Representative for Security Affairs, Lee Do-hoon, is in Washington. He arrived there on Wednesday afternoon local time. And little is known about his unannounced visit, which comes in less than 2 days after North Korea blew up the Inter-Korean liaison office. And there are no details on who he'll be seeing or what discussions they'll have, but it's highly likely that he'll be meeting with his American counterpart, Stephen Biegun, as well as U.S. National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien. Amid speculative reports on his visit, South Korea's senior presidential secretary for public communication this morning said that Lee's visit to the U.S. had previously been scheduled and it has nothing to do with his role as special envoy. Now, this makes it the first time that Lee and the U.S. officials have held face-to-face talks since the global outbreak of COVID-19. U.S. President Donald Trump has extended existing sanctions on North Korea for another year. Now, the notice of extension describes North Korea as a country that continues to pose an unusual and extraordinary threat to the United States. Our Kim Jae-hee tells us more.
In a notice sent to the U.S. Congress on Wednesday, President Trump said he's continuing the national emergency with respect to North Korea. It was first declared on June 26, 2008 by Executive Order 13466 under the George W. Bush administration. It has further expanded in scope since then. As an extension needs to happen every year for it to remain in force, President Trump has made previous extensions before, the last happening on June 21st last year. With this year's extension, the order will remain in place until June 26, 2021, unless another extension is made. The latest notice said it's necessary to maintain certain restrictions on North Korea as the risks of weapons-usable fissile material on the Korean Peninsula and the actions and policies of the regime, such as the pursuit of nuclear and missile programs, continue to pose an unusual and extraordinary threat to the U.S. Although the term unusual and extraordinary threat has been used in previous notices, including by the Obama administration, analysts suggest a restatement of the term amid recent provocations by the North may imply a warning to Pyongyang. Watchers also say the extension of sanctions reflects the U.S. stance that there will be no sanctions relief unless significant progress is made by the North. Kim Jae-hee, Arirang News.
A former commander of U.S. Forces Korea says the U.S. and South Korea should respond to North Korea's provocations with military pressure. Speaking at a virtual seminar hosted by a U.S. think tank, the CSIS, on Wednesday, Vincent Brooks mentioned bringing strategic assets such as nuclear-capable bombers and nuclear submarines to the Korean Peninsula and suggested joint military exercises. Brooks also said he expects the North to follow through with its pledge to redeploy troops and rebuild guard posts along the DMZ. He also stressed the importance of maintaining close military ties with Seoul. But he also left the door open with the possibility of dialogue with North Korea, as Pyongyang's aggressive remarks have not been directed at Washington. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's personal plane has reportedly made a rare flight amid the increasing tensions on the Korean Peninsula. According to Aircraft Spot, an aviation tracker, Kim's aircraft was spotted flying from Pyongyang to the eastern part of the country at around 10 a.m. local time on Wednesday. It also added that plane's radar signals disappeared near Hamgyeongbuk-do province. While pundits say that Air Korea plane has been used as Kim's personal aircraft in the past, it's not yet clear whether he was on board that plane this time. Villages that are dotted across South Korea's Gangwon-do and Gyeonggi-do provinces are close enough to the border that many of their residents can even see North Korean territory with their bare eyes. And it is these people who feel the escalating tensions most keenly, especially at a time like this. Our Lee Kyung-eun reports.
This small town called Myeongpari is just 10 kilometers from the military demarcation line that divides the two Koreas. Located in Gosan County, Gangwon-do Province, this neighborhood is on high alert due to rising tensions stemming from the North's latest bombing of the Joint Liaison Office. People are trying to farm their land, run their businesses, and live like normal. And they're still allowed to cross the civilian control line. But fears are spreading in the community following the North's announcement that it will mobilize troops in the demilitarized zone and the special tourism zone around Mount Kumgang. At another border area, Yeonpyeong-do Island, things a bit more tense. Just off the coast of Gyeonggi-do Province, the island was the target of a North Korean artillery attack 10 years ago. As of Wednesday, soldiers have been dispatched across the island. Public officials are inspecting evacuation facilities, which are currently closed due to COVID-19. They're also informing residents on emergency guidelines. It's a similar scene in the city of Haju, one of the places designated by Gyeonggi-do Province as a critical region. In Taesongdong, the only civilian village inside the South's demilitarized zone, residents are living under fear and uncertainty after actually hearing Tuesday's explosion. And they have another concern. Their struggling local businesses could be hit harder by the further drop in tourism due to the tensions. To help these people feel safe, local governments and police services are upping up their inspections to prevent the sending of anti-Pyongyang leaflets, which are believed to be the source of the ongoing tensions. Lee Kyung-eun, Arirang News.
An initial clinical trial out of the UK has shown that a cheap and affordable steroid can be life-saving for patients who are critically ill with COVID-19. And the World Health Organization has welcomed the news, but stressed the need for further tests and for it only to be administered under close medical supervision. Our Lee Seung-jae has more.
Used since the 1960s to reduce inflammation caused by diseases such as arthritis, Dexamethasone is a corticosteroid that has been found to be life-saving for patients who are critically ill with COVID-19. Especially for patients on ventilators, the treatment was shown to reduce mortality by about 1/3, and for patients requiring only oxygen, mortality was cut by 1/5. According to the latest preliminary findings shared with the WHO, the benefit was only seen in patients who were seriously ill with COVID-19 and was not observed in patients with milder cases. While the latest finding is being seen as a breakthrough in the fight against COVID-19, the WHO stressed that it's only based on preliminary data.
It is one, but of the many breakthroughs we're going to need in order to effectively deal with COVID-19. And as such, we should celebrate that today. But it's still just preliminary data. It's from one study. It's very significant, but we also have to see the real data, the full data.
The head of the WHO also stressed the need for caution, adding that more treatments are needed for those with milder symptoms.
These drugs should only be used under close clinical supervision. We need more therapeutics that can be used to tackle the virus, including those with milder symptoms.
The drug has also been used in the treatment of some cancers and has been listed on the WHO's model list of essential medicines since 1977. It's also currently off patent and affordable in most countries. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Here in South Korea, starting today, people can buy up to 10 protective masks a week under the government's revised mask rationing system. Now, this is up from the previous limit of 3 a week for adults and 5 for children. People who bought only 3 masks so far this week can purchase an additional 7 masks within the week. Identification checks will still be in place, however, to prevent hoarding. SsangYong Motor, the South Korean unit of Indian carmaker Mahindra & Mahindra, has been denied of a new bailout fund. Now, that decision was made by Seoul's policy lender on Wednesday, which stressed that money is not necessarily the only thing that's needed for a company's survival. Our Kim Hyo-sun reports.
South Korea's policy lender Korea Development Bank has stressed that liquidity-stricken SsangYong Motor is not qualified for special support under the newly established state fund to help stabilize the market. Speaking to reporters on Wednesday, KDB Chairman Lee Dong-ul was referring to the $33 billion government fund to help key industries hit hard by the COVID-19 pandemic, including the airline and tourism industries. He also explained that money is not necessarily everything for a company's survival, asking the firm to exert more efforts to recover from the large annual losses the company has been posting lately. SsangYong Motor, the South Korean unit of Indian carmaker Mahindra & Mahindra, has been making efforts to crawl into the black, but the pandemic has led to a sharp drop in demand both at home and abroad. What's more, Mahindra has also said SsangYong needs new investors, with many pundits hinting that the Indian carmaker could be giving up on the firm. On a positive note, KDB vowed to extend loan repayment relief for $74 million to SsangYong, which was set to mature in July. Lee also called for its parent company Mahindra & Mahindra not to deny its responsibility, adding that KDB will be urging them to extend their loan to SsangYong that's set to mature starting this month. Kim Hyo-sun, Arirang News.
The head of the Federal Reserve is warning against pulling fiscal support too quickly on the final day of his two-day congressional testimony before the House Financial Services Committee on Wednesday. Jerome Powell said he'd be concerned to see Congress pull back stimulus measures prematurely. Powell added that stimulus has already had a positive effect on the U.S. economy, boosting consumer spending, income data, and payrolls. He told Congress that the Fed needs to keep doing what it can do to help the recovery. The Fed has deployed multiple lending and liquidity programs and slashed rates to near 0% over the past 3 months. Diplomats from G7 countries have issued a joint statement on Wednesday, calling on China not to follow through with plans to impose its national security law on Hong Kong. The foreign minister said the proposed national security law would risk seriously undermining the one country, two systems principle and the territory's high degree of autonomy. Now, the ministers also added that they are writing to underscore their grave concern regarding Beijing's decision, which they said was not in conformity with Hong Kong basic law and China's international obligations, also spelled out in the Sino-British Joint Declaration.
Good morning. It's been raining heavily in certain parts of the country. In fact, parts of Jeju and southern coastal regions already received nearly 80 millimeters of showers with a heavy rain advisory in force. And brace for heavy rain of 80 to 100 millimeters throughout the day, with flood concerns for Jeju and Jeollanam-do province as they already received downpours last weekend. Meanwhile, other southern regions will see 5 to 40 millimeters of rainfall. Central parts of the country, though, will be muggy with lots of clouds today, and southern Chungcheon will have highs hovering around 30 degrees Celsius this afternoon, and the top readings in southern provinces will be 3 to 5 degrees lower today. Daegu just getting up to 23 degrees, Gyeongju and Gwangju at 22 degrees. Meanwhile, hot and sunny weather continues here in Seoul, and next week we are looking at hotter temperatures with highs above 30 degrees Celsius. That's Korea for you, and here's the international weather for viewers around the world.
And that does it for this edition of Arirang News, but we'll be back with more of the day's headlines in our later newscast at noon Korea time, so stay close. Thanks for watching.